Most of the time we're focused on, well, this is how it's meant to go. And let's be honest, 99% of the time it never goes how you think it's gonna go.
Ever, yeah.
And so I always say to people that you get to where you want in life, just not in the way you imagined it. But if you keep imagining it in a certain way, you may miss the path that's unfolding and opening up behind you.
Imagine being a kid born in London with the dream of inspiring the world. Your school days are spent being bullied as you struggle to fit in between two cultures. At 18, you encounter a monk that changed everything, leading you to spending 3 years living as a monk in India.
I'd never really heard from someone who penetrated my heart in a way that made me think, I want to do that. He was the first person I'd heard that talked about service being the meaning of life.
You move back to London, you learn how to transform ancient wisdom into viral social media content, making spiritual knowledge accessible to millions through modern storytelling.
If we don't learn to master the mind and learn to master our emotions, there is no success in life. Ultimately, you're gonna be lost no matter what.
Now, you're a best-selling author and host of one of the biggest podcasts in the world, On Purpose. You have reached billions of people globally, turning your childhood dream into a reality by bringing ancient wisdom into the modern world.
I hope that what I've done is an offering. I hope that it's been of service.
My name is VicBlends, and this is DeepCut with Jay Shetty. Thank you to the sponsor of this episode, GetJoy. Stay tuned for more.
How's it going, man?
What's up, bro?
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Great. Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, man. Congratulations on everything.
Yo, likewise, man. I appreciate it.
Amazing. I remember when I think we first exchanged messages. You were out there changing people's lives on the streets. So.
Trying to, bro. Doing what I can.
It's beautiful, beautiful to watch.
Thank you. How would you like your grooming today?
I think we'll do a beard cleanup. Just, a little trim. I trust you, so
I got you.
I'll let you do your thing.
Do you have a barber that you've been going to for a while?
I have a hairdresser that I see, a stylist that I see.
What are you doing right now? It seems like you're growing it out.
I'm trying to grow it out, yeah. I just had short hair for so long. I had hair shorter than yours.
You've been through a lot of different hairstyles. I was doing my
stuff.
research. Yeah. Do you have a favorite style that you've had so far?
I think it's getting there now. But I feel like that's how it always is.
The curls is a good look.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. This was, my stylist encouraging me to embrace my natural curls.
Yeah. First time you're growing it out this long?
Yeah, I think so. It might have been grown out badly long before. I've definitely had a few too many hairstyles, but
all good. How you feeling today?
Feeling good, man. It's been a great day. It's been a good week. It's been, starting off with that prayer was really beautiful.
It's the best way to start the day.
Yeah,
that's way to start anything.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Never done down a set before with someone else. I always start with the intention and a meditation on mine, but to start with a prayer was really beautiful.
Do you remember praying early into your life?
I was introduced to prayer early in my life, but I didn't feel that I really understood the essence of prayer until much later. And I feel like there's a big difference between growing up ritualistic and then becoming spiritual. Mm-hmm. And that difference between doing something because you're told to do it or the people around you do it versus you recognize the value of it. So I think it took me into my late teens and early 20s to really value what prayer meant and how it could work as opposed to what I felt growing up where you're praying to get good grades or you're praying to stay out of trouble or you're praying for stuff or things or praying for the perfect birthday present.
Yeah.
But then when you grow up, you start realizing that prayer is so much more of a conversation with God.
Yeah, and prayer could be intimidating to people that don't do it often, and it is always seen as I have to be on my knees, hands together. But how would you define prayer for yourself?
I see prayer as a conversation with God. I think the less rules, the better. Just like a conversation that I'm having with you now. If my guard's down and I'm not having to look a certain way, dress a certain way, stand a certain way, then it's almost like I can let all of that stuff fall away and truly open my heart and open my soul and bear that. I find I do some of my best praying when I'm driving. Mm-hmm. That's when I find I'm doing my best praying. Like if I'm on my own and I'm driving, it's silent and don't put any music on and just let myself talk and think out loud. I find that to me, I find very therapeutic.
I just want to take you to the beginning, man. Grew up in Barnet, London, North London. Tell me about how that helped define who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Wood Green. I went to school in Barnet.
Wood Green.
Yeah, went to school in Barnet. And I think I had a good experience of my primary school or elementary school, as you say in the US, was rough and tough. And my parents were trying to get me to work hard. And I found like I got bullied a lot for a few things. One was I was a bit of a dork growing up. I was pretty good at school. And so there was that.
Yeah.
And then I got bullied for being a little overweight when I was young. And then I got bullied for the color of my skin. So I felt like I grew up being bullied for quite a few things that were either out of my control or things that I actually thought were good. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, it kind of gave me a sense of how not to be and what not to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that was beautiful. I think sometimes we think if we don't have good role models or good experiences, we don't know how to be good. But I see it the other way. If you only have bad experiences and bad role models, you get a sense of a list of do nots. Mm-hmm. And so I think I was making a lot of notes thinking, don't do that, don't treat people like that, don't act like that.
Yeah, from your own experience.
From my own experience, because I was like, oh, I'd never want someone to feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think I grew up with a sense of deeper empathy and compassion in general, because I saw that as soon as I lost the weight, as soon as my color of skin didn't feel like a weakness anymore, it was like people changed how they viewed you and treated you differently. And I was thinking, I'm the same guy though. I'm still that chubby kid from North London, but it's funny that everyone's treating me differently. So at the same time, I grew up in a very, my mom showed me so much love. I felt like my mom's love was a shield that protected me from so much of the pain that could have been. Yeah. So people are always like, oh, how did that bullying affect you? Or did that make you anxious or nervous? And I think my mom's love just convinced me that I was always lovable and always had good inside of me, and that protected me. And so love is an amazing shield that I think we underestimate and undervalue in today's world. And we kind of see it as soft or, oh, it won't really work. But yeah, my mom's love was an amazing, amazing shield of protection.
What was the dynamic in the household? Mom, dad, siblings?
My parents didn't have a great marriage. I mediated their relationship a lot. And I have a younger sister who's like 4.5 years younger than me. She's my best friend and kind of raised her like my daughter almost. Like I still call her a kid because she was like my...
And she's always gonna look like that.
Yeah, she still does. Yeah, she got married last year and I thought I'd be ready for it, but I literally just posted this yesterday on Instagram. I'm bawling, I got the pictures. And there's this picture of me, I look like an absolute wreck. And my wife's sitting right next to me taking this picture, like all happy and joyful.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go meet my niece for the first time. My sister had a baby, she's married.
Oh, no way, congratulations.
This week I'm gonna go meet my niece.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So it feels the same. She's older than me, but I always feel like big bro.
Yeah.
And seeing her go and live a life, it is, it means a lot.
Yeah, I thought I'd be prepared for the wedding, but I wasn't. I remember she was taking her vows, and I was just like, I was in tears. I was just like, oh my gosh, she's so well-spoken. It was like, I don't know what it was. It was just this very surreal experience of watching someone you've seen grow up and someone you love.
It's because she got a good big brother. Yeah, she got a good big brother.
I walked her down the aisle and I was trying to hold back tears because I was like, if I start crying and then she cries, then her makeup's gonna get ruined and then she's gonna hate me forever in all the pictures.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, just don't cry, just don't cry.
So you gotta drop a couple tears.
Yeah, I just about got there.
So from both of your parents, what do you think you took from each of them if you had to have the makeup of both of them?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What have you took from your mom and your dad?
Oh, I love that. I'd say I got my father's mind. He's super sharp, really clear, very good memory. My dad's great at figuring stuff out, problem solving. He's extremely thoughtful, reflective. He worked a lot on himself, a lot of personal growth, a lot of self-development inspired by his journey for sure. And then my mom, I'd say my mom's heart. She just never hated a soul and taught me how to love and taught me how to be a loving person, taught me about especially women's experiences and how different they were from a man's. And so brought me up with that sort of maturity and lens and perspective. And so my mother's heart and my dad's mind, I'd say, are the two things that I'm very fortunate to have, very grateful.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, y'all, let's take a quick break from this episode to thank our DeepCut partner, Get Joy.
GetJoy is a dog wellness platform with gut-healthy nutrition at the core of what they do. They make products that prioritize your dog's health just as much as you do your own, so you guys should have more time to create joyful memories together. GetJoy is the best dog food I've ever given Russ. I've been using it exclusively for Russ for the last 4 months. I've never seen him be this excited to eat since I've been giving him GetJoy. The guy who started this company did it because his dog died young but could have lived longer if he put healthier food into his bowl. So we started GetJoy to personally make that happen. I'm proud to partner with GetJoy and even prouder to serve it to my boy Russ. They work with expert veterinary nutritionists to make science-backed fresh freeze-dried meals, superfood treats, and chews made with real quality ingredients that are optimized for your dog's health. GetJoy goes beyond the bowl with the preventative supplements, 24/7 accessible televet care, and even smart collar technology, all designed for you to create an easier daily wellness routine. This is all for you and your dog to live a healthier, happier, and longer life together. I've been adding GetJoy's fresh and freeze-dried food to the top of every one of Russ's meals so far, and he's been in love with it. Developed by PhD animal nutritionists, the beef and the chicken recipes are developed with quality ingredients. The fresh and freeze-dried meals are scientifically proven to optimize your dog's gut health, immunity, and vitality. Put your dog's health first with GetJoy's fresh and freeze-dried meals. You can get 60% off your first auto ship box by using the code BIG60, and you could do that by clicking the link down below. That's code BIG60 for 60% off your first auto ship box. Now let's get back to the episode.
As a kid, could you have predicted that you would be the person you are today if I were to look at you as a kid?
Definitely not. But that was a transitionary time. I think up until I'd say up until 13 years old, I was teacher's pet, very obedient, focused in school, listened to all the rules, followed all the rules. And then at 14, I was like, nope, no more. And so the rebellious streak started to come out around 14.
Where did that come from? Where did the rebellious come from?
I think it came from a bit of the experience of the bullying now, thinking about it, subconsciously there was a feeling of, well, wait a minute, I was doing everything right, I was good to everyone, why am I still getting bullied and why am I still experiencing racism and why is that the case? So there was a bit of that kind of, feeling inside. And then I think it was the natural experience of, you're changing, you're growing, you want to fit in, you want to be different. I think I was hanging around with specific circles that you'd never want your kids to hang around with. And so I think you start doing that and you start wanting to be like the people you hang around with, and then you realize you're just a big softie in your heart, and you're trying to act tough and hard. And so there was that. But no, I would never have imagined it. I didn't really have, I don't know if I had wishes. Maybe I had dreams, but not dreams that you ever thought would be real.
What was a dream that you thought you would have that wasn't seeming to be realistic?
Oh, it's funny saying it now, and now it's just hilarious. But I guess I still play with words. But spoken word and rap was like my first love when I was 16. And
who's your favorite rapper?
I have to go with Eminem. Eminem's my favorite. Yeah,
Okay.
I have to. I'm easy like that. Yeah, Eminem has to be. I think lyrically, I think times have changed. How old are you now?
Sure. I'm 25. I just turned
25. I'm 12 years older than you, so I feel like
that's more your era.
Music has changed. I feel like when I grew up, it was all about the lyrics and the wordplay, and
it's different. Yeah. It's a different era, and everything will come back around full circle.
Yeah,
but that's funny, Eminem. So being a rapper, doing wordplay.
Yeah, just spoken word. There was definitely an attraction to music. I can't play either now. I grew up playing the piano, played the drum kit for
musically inclined.
Yeah, very much so. And so even my work today always has rhythm and music, and it's always inspired by wordplay. And I've loved language ever since I was young.
Yeah.
And so I think it was more that. I don't think I could have ever made it as a rapper. I would have sucked.
When do you think you were starting to discover your creativity?
I think early on, I was drawn to art at school. That was one of my favorite subjects when I was 14 years old. And it was funny because when I ended elementary school, my worst subject was art. And then when I started secondary school, my favorite subject was art. And so art became a big fascination. And I was never good at painting or fine art or drawing, but I loved collage. I loved juxtaposition of colors and shapes and imagery. And so I did art all the way up to A-level, which is what we do in England up until age 18. And I felt like that's where I got to express myself the most. And so I remember my teacher being one of the best people I ever met, because every time I'd do something so that it would look good on a canvas or a page, he'd always ask me, why did you do that? And when I was 15, I was trying to make up a good answer so that he'd be impressed. And he was never impressed, because if I didn't have a deep, thoughtful, intentional reason, he wouldn't give me a good grade for it, even if it looked good. And so I think I learned early on that art and aesthetics was not about just looking good, it was about being good, it was about being thoughtful, introspective, reflective, and he was the one who was always forcing me. He always kept asking me the question, why? And I'd always dread that question.
Yeah, because you gotta explain something you just trying to do for fun and not have to be, of course.
So I think he trained me to be extremely intentional, which I'm grateful for today.
Yeah, so as you're coming into end of senior year, and that is usually that crossroad where you have to make intentional decisions, like you're saying, and go into a direction. What you push towards school first, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel that that was going to be the right decision for you?
Yeah, I grew up in a family where, especially as an Indian kid, it's like education and getting a good job is like seen as the most important thing in the world. And so I don't think I could have ever imagined a life where I didn't go to college because I didn't even have that concept in my mind. It didn't even exist. And so I didn't even know that there was a life where you didn't need to go to college.
Yeah.
And so I ended up there kind of by default, but it was one of those things where I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to my parents for forcing me to focus on my education. I think it's given me a lot of skills that I potentially would have not felt were valuable. But now when I look back, I'm super grateful.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I know we live in an era of everyone being like, don't go to school, don't do this. I'm like, well, some of us learn a lot of valuable lessons in school as much as we do out of school, and I'm grateful that I did it.
I didn't ultimately go to college. I had started cutting hair when I was a senior in high school, and it was supposed to be my side hustle in the dorms. My mom and my dad were the same way. It took my dad a very long time to get his master's degree. Then he didn't finish college till he was in his 50s. So he always looked at it as if I could go back, I would have got my education sooner. Same with my mom, coming to America, getting an education is just what was really looked at as gonna give you success. So that was always what they kind of pushed me towards. The drive in me as an entrepreneur, I've always been an entrepreneur young. I didn't have any specific thing pushing me towards that, but started cutting hair, felt a passion for it. God had told me my senior year that if I took barbering serious, it would open doors for me. And as I told you before, that was the start to me really picking up my spiritual journey. And yeah, I do believe the same. I do believe, college is a great place to discover who you are. I'm not that guy that's like, yo, I didn't go, so nobody else should go. But if you don't know what you want to do, it's a good place to figure it out and be around like-minded kids who are also trying to make something shake.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Hey, son. Thank you, thank you. So now I get to do yours, right?
Yeah, I'm ready when you are. I ain't got much for you to work with, but I've actually been waiting. When did you grow a beard?
When did I grow a beard? Oh my gosh, probably the worst version of it was probably when I was like 16.
You had a beard at 16?
Yeah, the worst version of it, and then 18 probably. 16 was like a chin strap, right? You could get a really thin, terrible chin strap, and then
chin strap is tough. That's a very tough style to have.
Yeah.
Still waiting. 25 years. So you pursued college. What direction did that go into?
Yeah, I think for me, you've been talking about your spiritual journey. My spiritual journey kicked off in my teens with a bit of reflection. It was what I was reading. So I always thought I hated reading growing up. And that's because in school, they'd always try and get us to read fiction books. So I was always reading about, stories that were made up. And then all of a sudden, my dad started handing me biographies when I was in my teens. And so I read Malcolm X, I read Martin Luther King, and then I also read Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and David Beckham because they were people that I followed growing up. And I just started loving real life stories and the grit and resilience and the pain people had been through. And I think that kind of opened me up, especially when I got into Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. So much of their work was religious and spiritual and faith-based. And then for me, when I met a monk at college, that transformed everything. Because I wouldn't say I was naturally drawn to spirituality or religion. It was in my life, it was always there, but it wasn't something that I felt called to. It was more, like I said earlier, as a ritual. It was something that you do because you have to and your family does it. And then all of a sudden, when I met him and I heard him speak, I was just like, everything he's saying affects my heart and soul in a way that nothing else has. And I used to love hearing from speakers about building a business and entrepreneurship and all this stuff, but I never really heard from someone who penetrated my heart in a way that made me think, I want to do that. And so I said, I went up to him and was just like, I want to follow you around. I want to just do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I just started spending more time with him. And I think that's what shifted my entire trajectory, because up until that point, I probably was just going to go into a corporate job, get married, work the hustle, try and get promoted, you know, do the traditional thing.
You heard him speak. What was it about his speech that drew you into it?
He was the first person I'd heard that talked about service being the meaning of life. The idea that giving your time, your energy, using your skills and gifts in the service of others was the purpose of life. And I just never heard anyone say that. I'd heard that the purpose of life was to become successful or to make a ton of money or to have a family or whatever it was. And it's not that those things were bad or they're less than, they just never made me feel the way I felt when he said that. And I thought, wait a minute, that sounds great. And he also was talking about how if we don't learn to master the mind and learn to master our emotions, there is no success in life. That you could be anyone and have anything and have everything, but if you weren't able to reduce envy, reduce ego, reduce illusion in your life, then ultimately you're going to be lost no matter what. And I felt those two ideas of self-mastery and service were so attractive that I was like, that seems like a worthy pursuit. Like that seems like something worth dedicating my life to.
When you were making the decision to become a monk, were you experiencing any anxiety, fear?
For sure.
Were you scared to become a monk?
For sure. I decided my last year of college that I was going to become a monk. And it's really funny how you make a spiritual decision in your heart, but then God tempts you in real life. And so that last year was one of the hardest years because I was just fighting off temptation and trying to be on the path. And then the anxiety actually came because I thought everyone around me would get it, but most people didn't get it. So my friends at school were like, why are you doing this? Like, we're all gonna get jobs. What are you doing with your life? You're throwing it all away. I remember my extended family saying to me, you're letting your parents down. You're never gonna get a job again. This is gonna fail miserably. It's gonna be terrible. So like I was hearing all of this noise and I started to think, I was like, wait a minute, if I become a monk and I wanna do it for the rest of my life, what if I don't make it? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
So there was that anxiety. At the same time, there was a feeling of, this is what I really wanna do. I feel it's my calling. And I don't think I'll ever regret it because it's being made from such a pure, honest place.
Yeah.
And I trust myself and, you know, I'm willing to go all in.
Yeah.
And so there was definitely the juxtaposition of emotions.
Yeah. How do you know a dream is worth chasing?
Oh, what a great question.
Yeah, because I hear you say that this is something I decided to do.
Yeah.
I felt the same as I picked up barbering. God gave me a clear sign that if you took this serious, I would open doors for you. And at that point, it kind of scared me. I didn't want to see what my life was going to end up like if I didn't choose to follow the sign that God gave me.
I actually would like to flip that because I think a lot of people are waiting for a sign to know that a dream is worth chasing before they start doing it. And I think it actually comes after you start doing it. It's rare for someone to have no experience in a field and suddenly get like this light bulb moment that says you should do this.
Yeah.
It's more like when you start doing it a little bit. So when I started spending time with the monks, I felt natural, I felt at home. When I started learning from them and listening to their wisdom, I was like, this calls to me. When I started sharing and teaching and sharing the wisdom they were teaching me, I was passing it on to my friends and people loved it. And I was like, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
And so I actually think, you know, a dream is worth pursuing because you started pursuing it already. And then the feeling you got from those initial steps pulls you closer to it. So I think it's when you feel pulled towards something versus when you feel like you're pushing it yourself.
Yeah.
That's in the beginning. And then in the middle, you've got to start pushing because the pull kind of goes away.
Of course.
That's when you've got to put in the work.
Yeah.
And then I think eventually it goes back to the pull again. So it's pull, push, pull.
It makes me think about the internal motivation. And from what I've read and what I've known is that motivation can be a temporary feeling, typically lasting around 48 hours. You'll listen to a song, you'll listen to a speech, you may watch this episode, it'll fire you up. 2 days later, it's starting to fade. But how do you really garnish internal motivation that won't go anywhere?
I think it has to become a habit. I remember at one point in my life, I listened to Steve Jobs' Stanford commencement speech every day for 9 months in a row. And there's no way that you can't listen to that speech and feel motivation every day. And it's interesting because I think we live at a time where we constantly think we need the new speech, the new book, the new app, the new this. And I've often found that if you find something that speaks to you, like there's a reason people are still reading the Bible and the Gita, which is the book that I studied as a monk. There's a reason why those books have lasted thousands of years. And it's because they still speak to people. And so for me, the repetition of something is more powerful than wanting to discover the new. And I think if you find something that gives you motivation and you can repeat it, I think that motivation goes so much deeper.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're building a house, you lay one brick, you look at it and it's, I have nothing.
Yeah,
you laid
absolutely.
2 bricks, 3 bricks. Before you know it, half the house is built and your confidence just continues to grow.
Absolutely.
You said you studied the Gita.
Yeah.
Gita.
Yeah.
What are some of the core principles about that scripture that you were studying that monks just typically believe in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Gita is a conversation, and it's a conversation between God and this character called Arjun, who's an archer. So he's one of the best archers of his time. Like he can shoot an arrow and it will destroy like 3 things on the way and still hit the middle of the target. And so he's super talented. And he's getting ready for the next battle, but the problem is he's having to fight his family because his family are trying to spread evil and darkness across the land. And he's feeling really nervous because he's scared about going into this battle for the first time. So he's feeling anxiety, he's feeling stress, he's feeling doubt. So the reason why I love the Gita is because we can all relate to that. And so one of the key tenets or the key principles is that we often start inquiry, we start asking questions when we're in positions of stress and anxiety and doubt. And so even though we think that stress and doubt and anxiety are bad, they're usually the beginning of inquiry. They're the beginning of questioning. And so sometimes when we feel anxiety, we're just trying to shut it away, but actually it can lead to our greatest transformation because that's what's going to push us to say, why am I here? Who am I? What's the meaning of my life? How do I make my life matter? And I think that's what people are looking for today. I think a lot of us are wondering why our life matters. And when you look at so much of the research that looks at why people commit suicide and sadly take their own life is because in some way psychologically they feel that their life didn't matter. And so I think that's one of the key principles. Another key principle that's huge is this principle of karma. And so I think we often talk about karma these days, of what goes around comes around, but karma actually originates from the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic tradition. And karma literally means that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And so I think that principle is super interesting to learn early on in life because I think we often think that there's no consequence. We often think that if we don't get a consequence immediately, there may never be one. But karma is so beautifully orchestrated that it says that you get the lesson you need at a time you can pass it. And so you never get the test when you're not ready to pass. But sometimes a test is held for you till much later because you actually have the skills and the wisdom and the knowledge to overcome it and to receive it. And then if I had to give one more, I mean, there's so many more I could share, but...
There was one that I saw.
Oh, go on, yeah, go on, tell me.
There was one that I saw, but it said to focus on actions and not results.
Yes.
And I thought that was super important.
Yeah.
And I just want to hear your view on actions versus results and where to put your focus at.
Yeah, so it says that we're not the owners of our results, we're only the owners of our actions.
Actually, that's all we have.
That's all we have.
Decision. We're given that every single day.
And so I think we often think about doing something based on what the result could be like. And so if you don't put in a lot of effort and you get a bad result, you're mad.
Yeah.
And if you put in a lot of effort and you don't get a good result, you're bad. And so we get mad either way. And the point is saying, actually, well, if you were to exclusively focus on iterating and getting so much better at the action in the process, the result is guaranteed. And actually irrelevant of the result, that the result isn't the success. Your intention, your attention, and your focus on the action is success. And I think that's a mind shift for all of us because I think we've been taught that the result is success. If you get an A+, it's success. If you got $1 million, it's success. And so we've constantly been told to externalize success. And the Gita is saying, no, internalize it. Make it about your effort. Make it about your mastery. Make it about your focus.
Yeah, I think that's very important and a special thing to remind people of because almost any outside achievement is what we look for validation from others and what we're gonna make ourselves feel important by having these things, owning these things. And, for me, I've always wanted to go to sleep. And when I look in the mirror, I wanna be proud about what I see Yes.
And I want to know that everything that I have is because I've earned it, because I have just followed the steps to do so. And then the person that I see is the number one thing that I'm most proud about when I look in the mirror. And it's hard to look in the mirror sometimes. That's a tough person to look at sometimes, man.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, you know, I think visualization, like you've seen yourself becoming this monk. How important is visualization? Because I think it goes hand in hand to the meditation that you practice, but actually trying to see your life unfold. How does somebody start that process?
Yeah, I think visualization often ends up being about the result again. So people often visualize themselves on the podium, or they visualize themselves in the house that they want, or they visualize themselves. And I actually think it's going back to the verse that you just brought up, the teaching from the Gita. Like, I think it's visualizing how you want to show up and who you want to be. So for example, in the morning, I visualize, when you're saying you pray, as part of my prayer and meditation, my visualization practice is visualizing what I have coming up today. So I knew that I had to go to the studio to do some recordings, some meditations for calm. I knew that I was going to come to see you today. Now I can't visualize, oh, it's going to be a perfect day, because I could pull out my driveway and there could be an accident. There could be something else happening on the side of the road. I can't visualize, oh, it's going to be perfect and everything's going to be amazing. I can't visualize, oh, I'm going to come here and I'm going to blow Vic's mind and everything I say that is artificial and it may not happen. But I can visualize me thinking, well, when I shake Vic's hand, I'm going to bring my best energy today. I can carry presence and intention in my heart. That when I see someone today, I'm going to bring goodness into the room. That I can control. And so when I'm visualizing my day, I'm visualizing everyone I'm going to meet. I'm visualizing everything I'm going to do. And I'm just visualizing which energy I want to bring into the room, because that I can always choose. Yeah. I can't choose whether someone's nice to me. I can't choose whether everything on the road aligns the way I want it to. Yeah. But I can decide how I'm going to show up. So to me, if people visualized how they wanted to show up at work, how they wanted to show up at home, how they wanted to show up with their family, their friends, all of a sudden when you walk into the room, you snap into what you visualize in the morning. So the visualization is almost like a dress rehearsal for your mind.
Do you think that focusing on visualization like that removes the anxiety of when things don't go the way
Absolutely.
that you see it to happen?
Absolutely.
And things go left?
Absolutely, because I think most of the time we're focused on, well, this is how it's meant to go. And let's be honest, 99% of the time, it never goes how you think it's gonna go.
Never, yeah.
And so I always say to people that you get to where you want in life, just not in the way you imagined it. But if you keep imagining it in a certain way, you may miss the path that's unfolding and opening up behind you. Yeah. And to give a practical example, like this sounds super silly, but it works. I remember when a couple of years ago, I was asked to go skydiving. And I didn't want to go skydiving. Have you been?
I don't think I could.
Yeah, so
I'm not gonna say ever, but I don't think the risk and reward is worth it to me.
Yeah.
But
so same, that's how I felt. And then someone that I respected was like, so we're going skydiving together tomorrow, right? And I didn't want to sound like I wasn't tough enough, so I said yes. So it was positive peer pressure. Anyway, so then for the next 24 hours, I spent my whole time watching YouTube videos of people skydiving just to get a sense of what it was going to be like. And then what I did is I practiced visualization. After I watched the videos, I closed my eyes and I visualized what it was like, what kind of view it looked like from 15,000 feet up in the air, what the sky would look like. And I literally felt sick in my visualization like 6 or 7 times before it went away. And then the next day when I went and did it, I didn't feel sick anymore because I'd already experienced that anxiety beforehand. And so what's really powerful is there's all these studies that show how the mind can't really tell the difference between virtual reality and reality. So if we were in a virtual simulation right now and we were scared of heights and we walked up to that edge, your mind actually can't tell the difference between whether you've got goggles on or whether you're actually looking off the edge. So similarly with visualization, you can prepare yourself. So if I have a big speech, I'll visualize myself on stage. Yeah. If I have whatever it may be. So I think people can visualize things that give them anxiety, right, to actually prepare themselves for it.
Right, and I think when you walk out of the house, the world cannot be predicted.
Absolutely.
But I think when you're in your home, there is a lot more control as far as what you're doing in there. So I'm curious, what are the first things that you think about when you wake up, and what are the last things that you think about before you go to sleep?
Yeah, the first thing I think about is definitely, what am I grateful for today? I feel like it's the best way to start the day.
Yeah.
The research shows that if you're grateful, you can't think about worry at the same time. So worry and anxiety and gratitude can't rent space in your
Faith
mind.
and fear can exist at the same time.
At the same time, they can't exist. So starting your day with gratitude for me is my number one priority. So I just have a little Post-it note near my bed that says, what are you grateful for? So even if I forget, I'm already asked the question. So that works for me. Straight after that, after brushing my teeth, I'll sit down to meditate. That's my first practice. My meditation is my prayer. And I practice 3 types of meditation. The first is breath work. The second is visualization, like I just explained it. And the third is mantra, which is sacred sound. So the Eastern traditions believe that sound has power and frequency and vibration, and the repetition of them create a protective shield around us. So I almost think of it as like putting my armor on in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? All day there's gonna be there's preparation. Put in a little prayer, then I usually work out because I want to get my body prepared as well.
Yeah,
and then I start the day. No, I ain't got nothing, man. I'm like, this is what happens when you're plant-based protein, you know?
Come on, man.
Yeah.
So before you go to bed, what are the last things that you think about?
The last thing I think about is usually, I try and tell God and the universe that I hope that what I've done is an offering. I hope that it's been of service. I try and think about the mistakes I've made, things I could have done better. So I try and think about, maybe I shouldn't have spoken to my wife that way. Maybe I could have been a bit more present with that individual, a little note for tomorrow, because I feel like tomorrow's another chance to be better again. And then the third thing I do is just remind myself that I need to rest each part of my body and my mind. So I often do a body scan exercise, just thanking my feet for carrying me, thanking my hands for helping eat, serve myself today, thanking my mind for being sharp, thoughtful, present. Actually taking a moment to be grateful to every part of my body for functioning, because I think we take it for granted sometimes that
we do.
You wake up and your feet work.
You're clouded a lot of times, and so what can I be grateful for? And the sun came out today.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm alive. You know, you don't even sometimes when you have a sore throat.
Yep.
You know, when you don't have one, you're never really grateful for it. And then once you have a sore throat, you're like, dude, I would do anything to not have this. So yeah, thanking the body for health is cool. Very important. So I think when you became a monk and the environment that you placed yourself in gave you the best possible environment, best possible atmosphere to grow. But for a person that doesn't have the environment that they need, what is the best thing for them to start doing to place them in a path towards spirituality or better life?
Yeah, I think the first thing is definitely finding mentors, coaches, and positive role models. I mean, even you going in, I see you in your videos, you're mentoring, you're giving insight. I think the second thing is you have to find a practice that puts you in the best energy. So yes, you can't control the energy around you. You can't change the people around you sometimes. But what is your practice that, and it could be reading a verse of your favorite scripture every day that puts you in the zone. It could be prayer, it could be meditation, it could be a workout. Like, what's your practice, your method to bring out the best in yourself? Because the world may not bring out the best in you. And I think if we're constantly waiting for other people to bring out the best in us, you could be waiting for a long time. So I think you need a mentor, a coach, you need a practice. And then thirdly, I think what you need to do is give yourself, you have to start changing the circle around you. Like, I think it's such obvious advice, but I think we underestimate it. I think you should actually take an audit of the 5 people right now that you see the most and recognize that that's who you are, that's who you're gonna become.
Yeah.
And so I think even shifting those little adjustments can make a huge difference around you.
Right, for me, I've been planted is my brand, it's my analogy, it's my life. And for a plant to grow and the best that it can, it needs the right sunlight, it needs the right water.
Yes.
It needs the right exposure. So yeah, placing yourself in an environment that feeds you and gives you the visibility that you need is gonna allow you to grow in the best way.
Absolutely, well said, man.
It's inspiring to see somebody live in both passion and purpose. I think the two go hand in hand, but how does somebody create a life where both of those things can coexist?
No, I'm glad you said that as well, because yeah, I feel like the reason why it feels like a jump and a leap is because you're likely to fall off. And so what you actually want to do is turn that leap into a step and a series of steps. And so to me, the first step is, even if you hate what you do for work, find a way to bring your passion into the workplace. And if you hate for what you do for work, try and find a way to make it something you can learn from. So I didn't love the job I did before what I do now, but I learned so many skills from it that are so useful now.
Absolutely.
And if I just went, oh, I don't want this, I'm gonna get away from this, then actually I would have missed out. And today I would have been kicking myself, regretting that I didn't learn the skills then. So I think if you can't love it, learn to learn from it and find a way to bring your passion into the workplace. So for me, I worked a corporate job, and at this company there were 500,000 people. So you're literally one of 500,000. And you can imagine that it's easy to get lost. And my passion was meditation.
Yeah.
And mental health was a huge priority at the company. So I started teaching meditation at the company because the company wanted to help people with their mental health. So I brought it into the workplace, and that's what built my confidence that there was a need, that I had value, that it was useful. And I also got to understand what a company's needs were, what their challenges were, why they needed meditation, why it was valuable, how it worked, how it didn't work, how it had to be measured. Yeah. And so today when I'm coaching corporate companies and clients and working with, companies across the world, it's because I've already done it in a small way that I have the experience of how to scale it. And so sometimes it can turn into the biggest blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mental health is, I just even love that you brought it up. And it is something that I think everybody absolutely deals with. And you don't deal with it head on until sometimes it hits the worst point possible. How do you have self-check-ins to make sure that you're recognizing maybe things are going left before they actually hit that point? How does somebody really analyze and understand that you may be stressed more than you think? When I speak to my therapist, she talks about minor stressors and how they build up, and those are the things that can make you crack versus these big problems that you focus on.
Yeah, there's this beautiful Buddhist statement that says, what movement does for the body, stillness does for the mind. Wow. So if you want to keep the body healthy, you have to move. But if you want to keep the mind healthy, you have to be still. And so most of us don't get enough stillness, quiet, or solitude to actually feel. Like, for example, when you're running around, you may not even notice during the day that you knocked your knee. And at the end of the day, when you're getting into bed, you're like, I think I knocked my knee earlier. Yeah. And that's because you suddenly slowed down and you felt it. And so with the mind, you've got to get so slow and so still that you can spot those micro stresses. And you can be like, oh, the thing that's really stressing me today when I'm quiet, when I'm sitting in my meditation, the thing that's really stressing me is this conversation with my brother that I keep putting off. It's this thing with my boss that I just keep avoiding. Like, it's not the fact that I'm, getting married next week. It's not the fact that I'm, struggling with my partner. It's not that, it's these micro things. And so to me, you got to get so still and so quiet that you can listen to that and you can hear that. And I find that you can do that in 5 minutes a day. If at the beginning of your day and the end of your day, you just sat down, and at the beginning of your day, you just said to yourself, I just want to get in touch with my mind. I want to get in touch with my body. I'm going to actually just be present for a second. It's the same as if I stopped in this room and we both looked around, we'd both be able to check what needs cleaning and what doesn't. You know that from a second of looking around the room that you're in. You can look in your bedroom and like, I need to clean my wardrobe. That's clean. The trash needs to be emptied. You got to do the same with your mind. So we got to start treating our mind like a room that we live in, as opposed to treating our mind like this thing that we use. Yeah. It's a room you live in. So walk into the bedroom of your mind and ask yourself, what needs cleaning, what needs clearing, and what needs to keep happening in order to keep it that way.
Yeah, stillness. I love that you practice it every day. So I want to ask you, what was the last thing that you discovered about yourself?
The last thing I discovered about myself is that I've learned to be comfortable with discomfort. I've stopped trying to create certainty and comfort in every area of my life. And I think there was a time when I kept believing that one day I'd get to a certain point where I no longer would have to deal with discomfort again. And so I learned that I had that hope and that wish. And now I don't have that hope and wish anymore. At least I'm trying not to have it, because we all have that wish for, like, we're gonna get to a place where from then everything's smooth sailing. And I think it's better to admit, just like a person who's guiding a ship would know, you may get smooth sailing for a few days, but the ocean is uncontrollable. And so the ocean of the world is uncontrollable, and it will always find a way to wreak havoc again. And it's okay to be prepared for that and know that. So
Yeah.
when things are bad, work hard. And when things are good, work harder. Don't wait for that complacency to kick in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I heard you say like you're trying to get to a place where maybe you don't feel discomfort, but I guess it's in your life. Where are you trying to head to?
Now, positively,
Yeah.
I'd say I'm trying to get to a place where I feel I've used up every bit of skill, intelligence, and gift that I've received from God in the service of others.
Yeah.
So I'm in the process of reflecting on what really truly is the reason I'm here
Yeah.
and what is really being asked of me. I think I've already been grateful enough to have so many more opportunities than I ever imagined.
Yeah.
But now I feel a deep sense of responsibility even more, to do more and give more. And I'm constantly trying to figure out, what does that require of me? What is required of me to kind of like, if you had a cloth and a sponge and you just rinsed yourself of every
Yeah.
dry, I want to be that dry sponge. So
Right.
I've been so fortunate to absorb so much goodness in my life, amazing mentors, teachers, mom's love. How can I now feel like I'm completely rinsed and dried?
I've heard you talk about seeing the beauty in everyday life. And I think there's a lot of people that could be, like, they could just have their head down so much that you're not able to see the beauty of life. But if I were to take a walk down the street, what do you think is the easiest way that I'll be able to see the beauty in life?
I think it starts with one step before that, which is just being present, mindful with what is. So before you even see the beauty, did you even notice the colors around you? Before you notice the colors around you, did you notice the shapes around you? Before you notice the shapes around you, did you even notice the different aspects and things around you? I think most of us, we walk into a room or you walk outside and most of us don't look at anything apart from our phones. So we're literally looking at one screen, which has limited amounts of colors, limited amounts of shapes. Like every app is the same shape. Every next button is the same. Every fast forward and rewind is, our mind's becoming like technology where it only knows how to operate in a certain grid structure and format. Whereas if you look at the world and you look at nature around us, like every single leaf out here is a completely different shape and a completely different shade of green. And there's probably no two leaves on the same tree that are the same. So it's almost like looking at, can I even get to a place where I can appreciate the complexity and the texture and the layeredness, and then I'll naturally see beauty.
Yeah.
Because beauty is in diversity, beauty is in difference, beauty isn't in things that are exactly the same and focus. So I think one step before seeing beauty in the average things and the simple things is, can I just be observant? Can I actually be here now?
Observing is very important. And Big Sean had me read the 7 Spiritual Laws.
Yeah, nice.
The 7 Spiritual Laws book. And one of the lessons in there that stuck out the most to me was the law of least effort, which has said to observe nature every single day.
Yeah.
And that nature is the best example of what manifestation could be into our lives. Because if you look at nature, a tree just grows, or a bird just flies, and they just do the things that they're meant to do. And I think dreams as a person are just meant to manifest naturally. And I've taken time out of my day every single day to go outside and just to watch nature and to watch things just be as they are.
Yeah.
And that puts me in a place of acceptance, which I think is an easy thing to say, but a hard thing to do. And for somebody that wants to work on self-acceptance, is there a step to starting that?
Yeah, I think what you just said was beautiful. That will get me to the answer to that question. It's when you look at nature, you realize light has a place, but so does darkness. Like if it didn't get dark every night, how are you gonna go to sleep? How are you gonna know? When you look at nature, you see there's a need for flowers to bloom and then trees to shed in the fall. And so when you're going through a season where you feel like you're shedding, you know there's gonna be another season where you're gonna bloom. Yeah. When you're blooming, you know you're gonna shed. And you don't look at trees in the winter and go, why do they look so withered? You know why. And so when there's a period in your life where you're feeling like you're withered, you know that it's a time of regrowth. It's a time of renewal. And so I think nature is a beautiful way to learn self-acceptance, because I think we've been brainwashed into believing that there are these things that are right and good. Like you should always be winning. You should always be succeeding. Everything should always be going right. You should always be. And I think that kind of puts so much pressure on us that we can't accept ourselves. I don't know if you saw Inside Out or Inside Out 2, which is a great animation if anyone's not seen it, because it shows us about all the different voices and emotions in our head. And I think we still think of things as those are positive emotions and those are negative emotions. But as you and me know, sometimes your negative emotions can actually be the most powerful reminders, the most powerful moments of breakthrough. And so again, if you're feeling darkness, maybe it is a time of rest. Maybe it is a time of renewal. Maybe it is a time to re-energize.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about rushing towards the light. Like if you stayed up all night going, I can't wait for it to become light again, you're not gonna get any sleep. And so sometimes we're in a bad place and we're just like, I can't wait for it to be light again. As opposed to saying, well, let me lean into this. Let me lean into what this is asking of me and asking from me. And maybe there's something to gain here as well.
Right.
And so I think self-acceptance is recognizing that nothing is overtly negative or bad unless I make it that way.
Right. Right, that's the definition of being planted.
Yes.
Is that seasons are gonna change. You're gonna look different. You might flourish in the summer. Your colors might change in the fall. And you might lose everything in the winter. But if you never take your roots out the ground, then spring gonna come back around and you'll grow again and you'll grow even stronger. But you can never take your roots out the dirt. You gotta stay down. You gotta stay planted, keep your feet where they are. And then spring will come back around. You ain't gonna be in this season forever. It'll always change.
I love that.
Yeah, that was beautiful, man.
No, I love that. That's beautiful.
What is something about yourself that you're proud about that the world cannot see?
I've recognized, and this isn't just true for me, it's true for everyone. I've realized that no one's journey can ever be truly appreciated, respected, or validated by anyone else because they didn't live it. So even if I love you and I deeply care about you and I try to understand every facet of your journey, I still will never be able to appreciate it as much as you need me to if you want my validation. And so for me, I've learned to self-validate a lot. What I found was that as I achieved more and did more, people around me also became immune to it. So they wouldn't even get as excited, and I'm still pinching myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm still like going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to do this. Like how amazing is it that I'm here with you right now? How amazing.
Like I want to be you when I grow up.
No, I really feel that. Like I still pinch myself for my whole life, but I found so many of my friends and so many people I grew up around, like no matter what I did, the next thing, it would just become less because to them, it just became normalized. They were like, oh yeah, Jay just does cool stuff all the time, and it became normal. And I think for me, the thing I'm proud of is that I've always learned to internally validate, appreciate, and respect where I've come from, who I am, and where I'm going, because, and that's not just true for me, that's true for everyone. If we're looking for external validation, it will never, ever stack up to the respect you ever want to have. It will never, ever fulfill that hole in your heart that you really want to have. It can only come from within. And so for me, knowing that I'm able to do that for myself gives me so much patience with others, gives me so much more compassion for others, and it takes my expectations off others.
Yeah, man, that's a very beautiful thing to say, because we can be so lost in looking at others. We can be so lost in what we see online, and sometimes we forget that we may be in a position where we had prayed to be at before.
Yes.
We're exactly where we prayed to be at one point, and to be validated by achievements, by the next thing, you can't even see the beauty of where you're at today.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, of course, man. Great question.
I have a section of this show called Quick Cuts, presented by Get Joy. So I got just a few quick questions for you. You answer them, as you want.
All right.
If you were trapped on an island with a guest that you've had on your podcast, who would you survive with?
Oh, that's such a great question. Now I'm trying to think of all the survivors on my. I think he's like the most versatile person. I think that the answer that I'm gonna go for, because he's smart and he's connected, so it'll work on both levels, is Brian Chesky. So Brian Chesky is the co-founder of Airbnb. CEO of Airbnb. And Brian is one of the smartest, most strategic, thoughtful minds I know. And he understands architecture, design. I'm sure he could craft something.
Yeah, build
figure our way off.
Yeah.
And if not, he knows someone who can come get us. So
yeah.
Right, I choose Brian Chesky for sure.
All right, if you and your wife were in a bank heist, and one of you guys had to go in and get the money, and one of y'all had to be a getaway driver, Who's gonna do which?
Oh man. The problem is my wife will find something else to do while she's trying to do it. I think she would say she wants to be the getaway driver, and I'd go go inside the bank. But I think I'd want to. I think that's what we'll do. She'll drive and she's a good driver. She'll drive and I'll go.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious. What was your first date with your wife?
Oh, wow. So it was like 11 years ago now. So I'm trying to think. My first date with my wife, I remember, was actually just a walk around London. London's beautiful in the summer. It was a great day. We both decided to just meet up. She'd packed us a little picnic and because she loves cooking, it's her thing. And so she'd cooked us up a little meal. We went out, sat down, had a little bite to eat together from what she'd made. I remember she'd made one of my, I have a big sweet tooth. So she'd made this Black Forest cake, which I love. And we just sat down, hung out, had a little bit to eat. And then, and that was it. We walked around, we talked for hours. It was beautiful. And so, it was simple.
Yeah.
And one of our dates I remember the most, which was, I think it was like our second or third date, was we went to one of these ropes courses, which is probably one of my favorite things to ever do.
Rope courses?
Yeah,
like when you
so they
walk
have
on the
like,
joint?
yeah, we call it an assault course in the UK, which is not the right terminology for this country.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
but it's basically like all these crazy like things that are suspended like 100 feet in the air. You're like jumping from one thing to the next. It was a good day. I really enjoyed it because you get to learn what someone's scared about, what they're comfortable with. There's a lot of physical contact involved, so it's fun to get to know someone that way.
Yeah.
It was a fun day. I loved it.
If you had to read one book for the rest of your life, what would you read?
It's easy to say the Bhagavad Gita, so I'll give you another one because that's the easy, honest answer. I think it would be Steve Jobs' biography by Walter Isaacson.
I heard that's beautiful.
Yeah, man, it's one of my favorite books. I've read it multiple times too, and so that book, because there's philosophy in it, there's spirituality in it, there's mistakes in it, there's real life in it. The book just carries so much wisdom in it. It gives you a peek into the mind of a genius who is complicated and layered and multifaceted. And I feel all of us are more complicated and layered than we believe. And so it's nice to peel back the layers.
Dream guest that you would have on Purpose?
So there's two. Usually my go-to answer is Cristiano Ronaldo because I'm a massive soccer fan. I followed his career ever since he was 17 years old. He's the GOAT. And I don't think there's an athlete that has that mindset in soccer ever and the ability he's had. I've actually met more American athletes who have the mindset that he has, like basketball players, football players and everything. But when it comes to soccer, his mindset is undefeatable. And I'd love to really get into that with him. And I'd love to get into his personal life. He's been through so much tragedy. His dad never got to see how successful he is. Never got to see that experience. And so I don't think anyone's ever really gone there with him. So I'd love to go deep with him. So he'd definitely be a top pick. Yeah, I'd say him. Let's go with him.
It's funny, my next question is Ronaldo or Messi? It sounds like I know you.
It's easy. It's easy for me.
That's the easy one.
Yeah, it's easy for me. I love Messi too. I mean, it's the there is no right answer kind of question. But based on mindset and the underdog, it's Ronaldo.
Bron or MJ?
Gosh, that's a tough question. I'll go with Bron.
Easy answer.
Yeah,
Come on, that's an easy answer. I love Jordan. That's an easy answer.
I grew up, see, I've had both, right? Because I moved to LA the year Bron came here.
Yeah.
And when I grew up watching basketball, MJ was the guy. So it's like I've had this interesting experience watching, but I'll go with Bron.
All right, cool. Last question. What was the last thing that you did for the first time?
The last thing I did for the first time, we threw a team event as a casino night. I don't gamble, I never have. And so we thought we'd do a safe, no losing gambling party for the team for summer. And that was the last thing I did for the first time because I've never ever done that before. I've been to Vegas and everything, but I've never actually done that. And so we had everything from roulette to blackjack.
I hope you hit.
All the rest I didn't win for sure. I didn't win for sure, so I'm glad it wasn't real money.
Yo, first of all, thank you for being here. This is so special, man. I've read your book, Think Like a Monk.
Thank you.
You're, again, I'll say it again, man. You're one of the guys I want to be when I grow up. I really am inspired by you. I'm really proud of you. I think what you're doing out here is important. And thank you for this moment, bro.
Dude, I want to say the same back. I want to take a moment to just honor your journey because I still remember seeing you just truly, truly changing people's lives in the most organic, authentic, beautiful way. And to see how it's evolved and grown is amazing. And it just makes me so happy that you carry yourself with that same love, integrity, presence as you did when you started. And I can't wait to see what you achieve next.
Thank you for seeing that, man. That's my
Dude,
mission.
I see you, man. I see you. Thank you.
Brother, thanks.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Of course, bro.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. Hey everyone, it's Jay. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've subscribed to Vic. Everything he's doing is dope. Keep following this guy. I think it's going to be good for your mind, good for your heart, good for your soul. Love.
Yo, I just want to say thank you to Jay for pulling up to the show. Thank you for blessing us with your presence, with your wisdom. We've been trying to make this one happen for a long time, so I'm just so grateful that we got to make it happen. This was a special conversation, and I hope y'all feel inspired. See y'all on the next one.